Zumba. Jamaica Kocho.
Would everybody just turn a little bit
Kweku.
Thank you so much for going through. And anybody who's trying to go to the bathroom, men's room is closed. The men's room is closed. Do not go there, please. What I'm going to do is just make sure everybody gets a microphone, at least quickly, so you can. Shirikiana is unable to join us. She's not feeling well. And we can hopefully discuss some of the questions you have. Because although it's a film that Shirikiana made, it's her philosophy. It's also something I personally myself believe. So anybody who wants to ask can start, and that would help us go forward. Can you give me the microphone in the middle somewhere, guys? Anybody?
Test, test.
Pass it to this filmmaker guy.
Yeah, you first.
So first, again, thank you for this experience. I feel really emotional watching the film. Just reflecting on my experience, born in Africa and coming here for my studies. I felt the same way as the filmmaker. As I was feeling empty, me living there too, and not really knowing about my culture, about the story. And the example of those kids living in Ghana, but not really be aware about all this history, I was feeling the same thing. So me coming here in the US was kind of the same travel, maybe backward, but kind of the same way. Like see people that look like me. I feel like me right now, I'm not feeling the same how I was feeling back in Africa. Maybe empty, but right now I feel more complete because I can see, I can understand my brothers that was away for a long time. So thank you for that. And my question will be, during the process of making this movie, sometimes during the writing, or maybe during the process of making this movie, it is always easy to go deep inside to face those trauma.
Well, I can only speak, only to a point. I know her father is the impetus to the story. That's the core departing point for her to go into this journey, because I think she was looking for more answers. I know the FBI killed him. Personally, I do believe that, but she was given information. They accidentally punctured his liver, but the FBI document that she also received from the Freedom of Information Act. I read it. There was 3-4 FBI's and CIA people following him all the time because he was connected to a revolutionary group in Detroit that were called RNA 11 or RNA. This is a group that was trying to get African Americans to secede in the what they call the Negro Belt in the South. They felt they should separate from white people, and they used to meet at his place. So they, and he identified with their ideas also, I think. I don't know if he was a member or not, I don't know, but I know he had entertained their idea, and that's what took him to Africa. and he had gone to the Soviet Union also with the camera documenting his journey. And so for her, when he had an appointment with her but didn't show up, apparently he was in the hospital. And the malaria is the initial situation, but I think after that they were in the hospital. The document speaks. These are like agents coming to his sisters, impersonating a salesman and investigate. So they were very intense on him. So for me, I just know how they work, and I have a different view on that. But that to me is what is the impetus of the story. That's where she is going from, emotionally trying to find her father's, because she was standing at a roadside waiting for a hit to see him after he returned from Africa, and she never saw him. So that I think is a very serious emotional situation for her. And this is, I'm just, I shouldn't share this with me. I'm just telling you what I'm reading, and I think the film is a journey to overcome that part, and that's what she does at the end, the libation at his gravesite. So the other
Thank you.
one, in terms of what you were saying, I think all of us who come from Africa, we really have no idea about this history. And Africans in the Americas, whether we associate with them or not, the information is a very difficult information to crack at. And I would say I myself learned over time, and people can learn over time. A lot of Africans we do not know. Many people died for us to walk free. Even here in D.C., we don't. I'm always frustrated about my own brothers and sisters from Africa who walk freely, who didn't know these streets. They used to burn black people with chlorine and many crazy things. When you study the history, you're walking through neighborhoods that white people terrorized the black people in. They fought all that, liberated it, made it a chocolate city, and those of us who enjoy to work here, to live here, etc., rarely pay tribute to that. But it's a process, in my view. But it's a common, in Africa also, the elite does not teach us our own history, because to me, I think the origin of the conflict is in our nose, under our nose in Africa. Any other person?
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sam, and there was a beautiful moment towards the end of the movie where she was talking about, when she asked the elder if she kind of accepted the two African Americans who were living there. I wasn't really clear exactly what she was asking her, but when there was a connection, and when there was a connection, it just was beautiful, because I couldn't articulate it, but I felt it. It was like, I do accept you. I understand what you're trying to say. I accept you, and I accept her when she pointed behind the camera. What? I don't even know what my question is, but it's kind of, it just.
No, let me
Go
get
ahead.
this one. You said, what she asked the old lady, who's also a spiritual leader and an elder, what she asked her, is there anybody in this room from those people that the woman remembers and passed through her lineage, people crying, screaming, going at night, being taken. So she speaks about that, and then she asks her, are there anybody, do you remember is there anybody from those people you think in this room? And she looked around, and then she helped her saying, what do you think of Amuku, the one sitting next to you? She says, now I know, yeah, this is one of them, she would say. And then she points out at her, identifying, saying, I remember you. So for her, it was a very important moment. I remember her telling me about it.
Yeah, I felt it.
Less opinion, more knowledge.
Professor Hunter.
Okay, I get you, brother. Anybody else?
I just like that moment was very important because I feel like I would love to have a conversation about the form of this film because there's like a lot of Mama Sharik's like narrations and they're poetic, but they're also just, questions and secrets and that she has carried with her across this water. And we see water so much over her questions, over the caves. Like, the form of this, I would love to talk about. It's very interesting. But for that moment, that felt like another, that moment where she asked the priestess, it's during a festival, where she says, are there any of us in this room that you recognize? And the priestess is saying, like, one is alerting her towards her knowledge about enslavement because she's like, our grandfather told us about this, and we cried for them, we mourned for them every year. We would go to this site and mourn, and and before she says that, like Sharik in her voiceover is saying all African descendants, who are in the diaspora, like always harbor this secret desire or like this innocent inner feeling, this need to be claimed. And in that moment, she was claiming her in telling her, like, we have mourned, our grandfather instructed us to mourn. And also later when she's guided into what is actually being asked, she says, yes, the person right next to you and also the person behind the camera. So I just wanted to say that because I felt that was very clear. Yeah, is my immediate point.
Thank you. Who else?
Hi, how are you? I would ask Shirikiana, but since she's in here, I'll ask you by proxy. How do you feel when you juxtapose the film, which was shot many years ago, and when you juxtapose it with the current climate of everything? And how would you compare the diaspora that went to Africa to seek out their ancestry, to seek out their people, their grandparents, their lineage and their history, and the diaspora that exists or is trying to exist now in trying to seek out their life? Do you think it has gotten better? Do you think it has gotten worse? Do you think there is a certain... have we regressed in seeking out our past, our connection with our people? Do you think African Americans in general have done an active effort in trying to reconnect with their past and their history? And when you put the people back then adjacent to the people back now, are they the same or are they different? What does that feel like to you? Oh, yeah?
I think from watching this film and being a chronically online person, I can say that I don't know if regression is the word, but I think there's a more of a consumerist element that comes with a lot of this searching now. These people were going, and it was so emotional to see them express what they were feeling, the anger, the pride, the dignity, the sorrow, all of those things, and we did have the year of return, but I think for our generation, from what I'm seeing online, it's turned into like commercialism, Daddy December and like Afro Fest. Like, it's cool, but it's cool because it's a part of the culture. Music is a part of the culture. Those performances are part of the culture, but you don't always see, maybe it's because it's not online, you don't always see the other side of that, Yeah, I feel like from my observation, we're not really seeing the other side of that. That is that serious, dignifying look at like where we came from and what the responsibility is to carry forward for that, But at the same time, in Sharik's generation, like her father was a sharecropper, and the priestess grandfather was alive during that time, so they were closer to it. I think that we've gotten further from it, and we've been lifted up so high we might be in the clouds. We need to find like the ground again, you know. That's my 2 cents.
Well, I can't. That's a good beginning. I can't answer your Shirikiana because she's, what I like about, for example, she, she's very respectful of ordinary black people. And I remember when she first was working on the film, there were some, intellectual snobbish people we knew were just, how come they didn't know slavery? Are they were very condescending about, I didn't know this history. How come you didn't know kind of judgment, which is a very class kind of problem. But Shirikiana stuck her gun with ordinary people and their ordinary arrival to information as legitimate. And in the end, the very people who thought initially of a problem were, I think, on board with her, in my view. To me, what Munyang is talking about now, I don't think there's some genuine search for, the most, it's a sentiment from day one Africans arrived in the Americas. We have to assume that longing for their home, especially those of us who have come from, recent Africa, the longing for home is a serious matter. That has never been respected on the part of the educational system, on the part of historians. Historians can talk stuff about numbers recklessly because they do not really have no stake on the information. And so, for me, that sentiment of longing for where am I from, now there is a spiritual displacement along with the materialism that has invaded the African American community. So their intention, what we see on YouTube, etc., the kind of commercialization, etc., of this journey. We told, Shirikiana and me talked a lot to the ministers in Ghana to be careful not to commercialize the spiritual, it would be a desecration, we told them, for Ghana or Africa, Benin, wherever this, Nigeria, West Africa, to make it commercial, it would be a second offense on slavery. First selling them, deporting them, and then now reselling them. It would be very, very, very brutal, in my view. And it's going to have consequences for that. But I think, I remember one sister, because I studied this slave coast very carefully for my film, for Sankofa. I used to stay there all day, all the way to the evening, as long as they allowed me. And the place conjures many things in your mind when you sit still and watch it. It's no joke. There's Ghana alone, there's 360 of this size of football, American football field, where Africans were housed. 360 all over Ghana alone. This is without Guinea, without Dakar, without Benin. This is just Ghana alone, because it was the center of the slave trade. And so that to me gives you the size of this whole journey, the untold history. You just visit, walk Elmina, Cape Coast, where she filmed, but try to go to the others, which I did, most of them, scary, because people don't build that kind of, the industry was enormously big. And we know also now the plan, she had it in her film, the ship plans, slave ships, how they were planned to stack up Africans, etc. So to me, it's a sacred ground. Even black Americans have no right to desecrate it. To me, Africans especially, we have no right to commercialize this. But African Americans do not also speak for this early burned black people, in slavery. You know, the way they, you know, if you talk about, you know, reparation, it looked like every pimp wants to get reparation to do crazy things to black women and cars and shit like that. And white people are ready to sell black people crazy material. That kind of world would be a desecration also. Because to me, reparation is very sacred itself. Those Africans who disappeared, if you desecrate their history, you have no right to speak about that or represent that issue, in my view. This is having studied slavery, etc. This is my personal view. But in the end, I think, as far as I'm concerned, Shirikiana and I proposed to African Americans. We had the fund at that time to create, we called the conference in Atlanta, and we wanted black people in America to go to the UN and made the slave forts under the jurisdiction of the diaspora black people, the very people who were deported out of that. So like it to be a Holocaust center, and no government has a right except a very, again, coherent, aware African American community, African Brazilian, African Caribbean, comprised of that to really have the stewardship of the slave forts. There are many that need to be repaired, many. In fact, in her next film, we hope to show soon on Pan-Africanism, she films Dr. Lee from South Carolina, who lived in one of the slave forts when he went there, intentionally lived in the slave fort with his wife and children. And so to me, it's a sacred ground, and especially storytellers have to know it's going to be the commercialization, the brutalization of slavery is building up now. Not because there are racist dudes in the White House, just black people. At this point, there is a questionable trend on reparation and what Africa means to African diasporas.
The film was very moving to me. Being a native-born Washingtonian here and knowing the history of the people who came before me, I want to assure you that there are many of us who want to know where we come from, just in this Washington, D.C. You may not run across them online. There are many of us who want to know before the enslavement of our people. Unfortunately, coming up through the school systems here, this history that's told to us only begins with the enslavement on afterwards. We don't get to hear, our children in these schools don't get to hear prior to. It's up to us to teach them prior to. And knowing the history of this country and the people who run, they're already trying to erase the enslavement part. They don't want their future generations to know what their people were capable of. When I went to Ghana twice and felt the energy and the goodness from the people who encouraged us to come back, encouraged us to find out where we're from, how to. And the resources that are out here right now to kind of guide you to find out how to, where you're from, where you originated, is really a big deal to a lot of us. I'm sorry that I start to witness with all this social media and the AI algorithms and pre-programming the brains. that a lot of our children don't even know our history. They don't even know about the enslavement. They don't know about the history. It's getting removed from them. When I talk to the young people out here, up and down these streets, and, I ask them questions, they don't have the knowledge because of this cell phone, these algorithms that they don't get to really learn their history. But again, my whole thing is what I've learned dealing with Africans and Ghanaians and the Akan tradition. Each one is supposed to teach one. We're supposed to be a community of people who teach and encourage and don't be afraid of these little young people out here. They're being young people. You don't be afraid of them. You talk to them, and most times you'll get the respect from them when you talk to them. But it was very encouraging, the film. It just brought me back into my memory of learning about the Pan-Africans here in this city, in this area, and the history of the teachings of the traditions and the people who brought the traditions all over that continent. And there are lots of us who want to learn it. And it's interesting that I guess we don't interact with enough African people to really get to know what their thinking is, because we've been brainwashed again in this culture to be against one another. We're told Africans don't like African Americans. We're told African Americans don't want to be African. But it's not true. It's just a bunch of junk put out here so that we can stay separated. We have to learn what the whole mechanism is here in this consumerism, capitalism. Make money for these people to stay wealthy. They take it on to the other countries in Africa, these Europeans who want to stay wealthy. And we've got to get past all of that, not let the enslavement become a capitalist thing, because it's not going to benefit us, because it's written not to benefit us. The people who call themselves rulers, even in, the European countries, they don't mean good for us. And once we start really realizing that, and if you know the history of the United States here, people, I was asked this past July 4th, are you participating in that July 4th nonsense? And I have to say, I participate in it because I'm going to keep the ancestors in my mind in this country who helped build this city. When I look at those big buildings down there, who helped put them all together, I'm going to recognize my ancestors who built this stuff. Because without them, it wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to walk up and down these streets. I wouldn't be able to go to the universities. I wouldn't, unless I recognize the ancestors who made it possible. So, yeah, I'm going to recognize July 4th because my ancestors made this. They did this. Those other ones just got lazy and wanted somebody else to do the work. So, let's recognize that our folks did the work. And they always do the work. No, I'm not going to get mad at somebody that Trump calls a communist. No, the communist people have a purpose. I ain't going to get mad at the Hispanic folks. No, they were here before these folks came and took over the country. So if we know the history, we won't fall into these little traps they try to put us in. Let's look back and let's teach our folks. You know, religion and all that stuff is, you don't separate yourselves.
Thank you so much. You want to say something, my brother?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was very well said. Just like hearing the conversation. When I was watching the film, I think for me, 2018 was like right before the year of return like really kicked off and all that. Like I'm a Ghanaian, first generation. But a lot of the time it's like I'll be amongst my friends or I'll meet people and they think I was born in Ghana, but I'm like, nah, I was born here. So it's a lot of the time when you think about it, I feel like one is the identity, like recognizing like, yes, you do come from there. For me, it's like, I don't know, I'm not gonna say like it's very easy. It's just because me like making films, listening to music, I'm always very tapped into that. I want to listen to like my people's music. I want to make films about my people, all those things. So even language, right? Being first generation, a lot of times maybe your parents wanted you to assimilate because they just came to this country. They're not speaking Ghana, they're not speaking Tree, like they're speaking English to you. And it's like even to this day, sometimes I look at my mom like, why didn't you teach me the language? So I'm saying that because sometimes, and like to your point, is our generation is very much, I think the information is very fleeting. You see it online, oh cool, oh it's nice. You watch the film, oh cool, it's nice. And then it's like, okay, you have your identity, but then like what do you do about it? For me, a lot of times like God gave you free will. It's like what do you want to do with that free will? For me, a lot of times, like this my brother, like I listen to French music. I listen to this music. I listen to music from Brazil. They have Yoruba culture there. So for me, I'm constantly doing things that subliminally is reminding me like, oh yeah, like, and I'm learning through that. That's how I learn languages, through music, through film, things like that. So it's like my own will to want to go and do it. So I think it's for our generation to not just like be reminded of it, because I've been to the Cape Coast Castle. That was in 2018. So when you go there, it feels like very heavy. Like you feel it, and now it's like fast forward, we're in 2026. Okay, but what do you do about it? So for me, the filmmaker, I feel like that when I was watching the film, I was thinking, oh, okay, so now she showed people you have your identity, you have your history. I'm wondering if she's gonna make a film that tells you, okay, this is the action you should do. Because for us, a lot of times that's what's lacking. You'll post something online or social media and you think you've done your part, or it's maybe like really and truly you want to go back home to Ghana. Like I would love to go back to Ghana, but like unfortunately, it's only the older generations that actually go take that action to go do it. For us, it may seem far-fetched because we're stuck in our ways. So I guess my main question was, like, how does she actually see this being put into action? And then also how, when it is put into action and you go back to Africa, like, we know the World Cup is going on, things like that, right? But now a lot of our African leaders, they don't really pour into the country how they should. So it makes it kind of the divide that you were speaking about, almost like, okay, you want to, but then now it's still remaining separate and we're stuck in our ways. And it's feeding into that capitalism because they want us to go back, but then when we go back, we can be very much the strongest power in the world, but we're not able to because of such divide. So in my head, I started thinking about, okay, maybe she's going to like continue forward and making another film that like shows what would happen if, because we all know the what if, that, oh, Africa could be the strongest world power. But it's been a what if for so long.
I'll tell you, she has another film you
Mhm.
gotta see also. But to me, this film also has its own closure.
Mm.
She departed on a personal note. The exorcism is very important. I know, generationally, I don't know where you are, but the hip hop generation, looking at his trousers, I'm joking. If the hip hop generation, uh, the individual exercising the individual issue is overlapped into a chorus soundtrack. This is why I think the African American culture now is stuck on a treadmill, because in the individual exercising, to me, if art, song, film, if it doesn't help you, it's no good for nobody. So for me, she wanted to, in her first film, it's about facts, but in a very poetic way. She addresses the poetic inner thoughts of her, the inner thinking. And then she comes with her children and pours libation at her father's cemetery. Now her, she's entering into, she's overcoming her father's pain. That's very important. A lot of young people, we don't know how to process personal trauma. We walk around like there's no trauma. But to me, a human being on this earth, given white supremacy and its capacity to dislocate, there's always this stuckness that you have to overcome. Otherwise, you're no good for nobody. Your film will never help nobody, nothing. Your music will not help anybody. In my view, your music helps if it helps you first, psychologically. In other words, if it makes you accept yourself and heal you from the, laceration that caused you to want to make a film about that, etc. So, but her next film, Pan-Africanism, that's logical. So she made a film first about housing in Washington, D.C. called Brick by Brick. That's her film. She knew what was, this is Chocolate City when it was 70 or 80% black people. She made a film that long ago on Washington. Check out her film. I don't think there's a movie on gentrification that could come equal to her film, in my view. That's not biased, it's just my judgment. And every time, wherever it shows, people say, where was this film? And our problem is distribution. Also, we don't monopolize, facts. Our documentary is not hit you in the head saying I have the facts. It's a poetic presentation of history. That's different. Poetic presentation of history. She is crying through history. She's bluesing through history. She's jazzifying through. When you hear the sound of Abby Lincoln in that place where she paid tribute to women being raped by these white people who are, that to me is like the coming together of Max Roach, Abby Lincoln, Shirikiana. And it's the most, to me, I'm choked when I see that scene and the way it rectifies, it circular narrative, etc. So that is very, very, very important for you to really know. My wife and me, we don't like to make films only about facts. We want to know our emotional journey through facts. That's very important. I'm not interested in facts. The monopoly, there's nothing white folks have not made a movie about. Fact is like not my interest. The poetic interpretation of facts by a musician or by a documentary filmmaker is a different story. Anyway, sister wants to say something here. She's in a hurry. I'm scared. Could you get
When
the
am
mic
I?
close?
When am I ever not hurrying? I wanted to say, in regards to your question, as a first generation, also, the thing that Haile always talks about is writing your story and like shooting your grandmother's wrinkles. I think even though it's like you were saying, like, what's the next step? The next step is very subjective. It's up to you, but it's very simple, in my opinion. All it takes is sitting with your elders, asking them about their lives. I think, like, even if you can't get across the continent, you have your people here with you today. And I think that's the thing that our generation misses because of Dead December and all those things, I think if you separate your identity from, like he was saying, the personal traumas or the struggles of your people, it is one that I don't know. I think it's one that's like not grounded in anything because your people struggled for something. You know, even if that should not stop you from living your life, but I think you still have to understand where they're coming from. My friend made this term called like I think it's flagrican for like an African that you know in the diaspora that's like first second generation. Our connection is through the music, the food, the parties, but none of the struggles that the people actually go through. I think that's what a lot of us go through right now. You know, it's like Wizkid versus Burna Boy, and it's like, do you know what's actually happening in Nigeria with the government? You know, so those are things that are important, but it doesn't always have to take so much. You just sit with your people and learn the lives that they actually lived, you know, and then that's where you figure out, like what he was saying, what to exercise. You know, I think oftentimes because we have access to so much information, things seem bigger than they are. You know, you can read the history book, but you could just talk to your people. You know, it's very simple. You start very simple, and it leads to more.
And can I just follow that? And when you're talking to these people, it's good for us also to hear what you're thinking about, what you're going through, so that we can connect the two. You know? Hey, I don't know what you're dealing with daily and what you're thinking and how you're connecting to this daily source of information that you all are I know it's drowning you, you know, all the information and, you know, and even the music, like you mentioned. Share it with those elders. Share the things that you're going through. Make it all cohesive, you know, because it's good for us too.
Again, to piggyback off of her, you know,
That's Bunyang.
say what?
Bunyang is her name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
Bunyang? Munyang. Munyang. Okay.
yeah, so you could know each other.
Yeah, instead of calling
My
her
brother.
her, she's right
I'm
here.
trying to say it's not her.
Right.
She's
I
not
feel
her.
bad.
She is Munyang.
Munyang.
Yeah, go
To,
ahead, my
to
brother.
piggyback off of
Yeah,
Munyang.
that's why I said less opinions is like your name. I said more knowledge. I took it like your T-shirt
Right,
is your
right,
identification.
Right. That's exactly right. That's
Thank
exactly
you, brother.
Right. And turned it on me.
Yeah.
No, but to piggyback off of Munyang, I'm 56, right? Generation X. Our parents lived it, right? Now, your generation, it might be your grandparents, maybe even your grandparents. But I was in my 50s before it dawned on me. When I asked my mom what was her experience like with the integration. So I asked my mom, and she just started pouring out information. You know, 'cause she was in like she was going into high school, so she was going into the 9th grade. And in talking to her, I told her to stop, let me get my recorder app, and we talked for days. And I have it documented. My little sisters, they don't even know I have this. But I'm saying all that to say, the history book is in your people. And you'll get a better story and a more honest story from them than you will reading it in a book, depending on the source. Talk to your people.
You know, to me, that's what's in the film. The most important part to me is the people she collected together. And I was in Atlanta. I didn't know how she put together, you know, this many, you know, folks to come to, you know, her on-camera interview, etc. So one of the thing I know, both of us, we've done a film called Wilmington 10, USA 10,000. For example, in that film, we didn't want to do a film about the young people who are the focus of the story, the young people who, you know, who were accused of crime and they are being tried. And when the project first came, I said, I'm not interested in the young to prove them wrong or right or they're guilty or not guilty was never my interest. I just want to know whose children are they. So it took me to North Carolina with many of my Howard students. Shirikiana was the coordinator of the whole project, and we stayed. All my students stayed with family. Everybody was located with family, and they stayed in a family, not hotel nor anything, and we did a whole research on the grandparents, and we pointed the camera at the parents than the kids who were the young people, like the Panther Party, political. I said, young people, they're unpredictable. Today they're militant, tomorrow they might be working for the FBI. So I don't rely on generation of mine, for example. At that time, they were my generation. But the parents I wanted to focus on, because the history of the struggle of black people is what interested me. So we had to go to the parents. And the parents, we showed it or wherever it showed in Europe, America, anywhere, they think those folks are philosophers. Yet they're ordinary. One is a maid, one is a masonry, one is a nurse, etc. That society never points camera at them. But we did, because they are the custodians of stories. And I just hope you don't lose that tape, because that could make, you have to put it together. You have to get a young person who could edit it for you, or you edit it yourself, put it together, put it on YouTube, because it's not only your siblings. We can adopt generational transaction without being related to. This is what we forget. Not many black kids have photograph of their, when I lived in D.C., like the inner city, Washington, a lot of the black kids don't have photograph of their own, forget their grandmother or the. So what we think, my wife and me, we feel that young people should adopt old photographs, black and white photographs, even if it's not their relations. In fact, we have a film we're trying to make now. That's the core story in the film.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight a few things, at least from my own personal experiences, when it comes to identifying your own history, your traditions, and your culture. I'm still like fresh off the boat. I grew up back in Ethiopia, and I came here around 2 years ago, I'd say.
Not the boat, I mean airplane.
Airplane, okay.
That's a two different journeys.
Okay. Analogy. So I'm still fresh off the plane, and what I would say is I'd love to speak a little bit about my personal experiences that has been here with different interactions I've had with people, and I'd also love to highlight that that lack of connection that you'd feel about your past and history is not just from your side. What I want to say is even from our side, there's a certain disconnect that happens with people that live here, African Americans in general, and even for our own life and our own history. At least let me speak from the capital city where I'm from, and a lot of people from my age. Even we have this, at least have lost this ability to speak with our moms, our fathers, our grandfathers. We've lost this ability to ask questions about where we come from. What do we have? Why are we here now? What's the culture why do we have this culture? What's the culture that we are going forward with? We also don't ask these questions. And then when I came here and when I spoke with people, I also saw that lack of information that exists here. I've spoke with many people, and when I told them where I came from, they asked me, and let's say there's like some sort of film I reference or some sort of movie I talk about, and they say, "Oh, how do you know that?" And I mean, "What do you mean?" And they say, "Oh, you guys have TVs there?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course we have TVs there. Yeah, what do you mean?" And they're like, "Oh," and then I talk about something else. It's like, "Oh, I've spoken with many people where they genuinely ask me, so how do you guys use bathrooms? How do you guys shower and everything?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" yeah, we have showers and we have toilets and everything. And I found it, I was genuinely surprised in this day and age, I remember, to still be asked these questions, you know? In this day and age where information is, I don't want to say free, but easily accessible, it was very interesting to have these conversations in which, oh, hey, I didn't know about this about your, Africa in general. I've asked multiple people here to at least name me um, like 5 African countries, and I don't mean this to admonish people here or say you don't know anything about this. I wasn't asking from that point of view, just to clarify where they stand and what's the knowledge that they have, and the struggle that I saw from them. I found that very interesting, and but also I noticed a huge curiosity whenever I spoke about anything about, oh, this is how we live, this is how things are, this is similarities that we have, this is the similarities that we face. Also, this is the difficulties that we face, because a lot of difficulties happen back home in my country and in African countries in general. And when I speak to them of those things, there's been genuine surprise and genuine empathy when it comes to the experiences that we have had. And yeah, I just wanted to say that you, and I guess people here in general, are not alone in wanting to seek out each other, because there is that side. We feel that lack as well, because we're all dealing with the same problem, which is, as interconnected as we are with the social media and internet and everything, we are not as connected in person. We are not as connected individually, socially, community-wise. We don't have third spaces anymore. We don't have exchange of culture as there used to be, at least I believe. And I forgot what your name was. Munyang. And as she was saying as well, as Munyang was saying as well, people only interact with the surface level culture, as it were, with the music, the movies, the certain looks that look cool, whatever. But we never actually sit down and discuss about each other, about like the struggles that we've had. What does your food taste like? Let's go have food together. Let's speak about our like differing experiences. And I just wanted to highlight that even from our side, we want to do that too, and even from our side, we are failing, because at the end of the day, this is a two-way street. It isn't just that African Americans in general should be looking towards Africa to interact and find out about their history. It's also the responsibility of us to reach out to you guys and say, hey, this is where you came from. This is your culture. This is your history. This is who we are as people. So I just wanted to say that, if you ever find yourself admonishing yourself and saying, I'm not doing enough, or what I do isn't where I want it to be, is just like a relationship. We also are not providing you the necessary platform to express your curiosity, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that makes sense, but like that was just what I wanted to say. Yeah.
You want to say?
Yeah, just to add up on what my brother just said, um, for my experience too, just to go more deep into this world of what you just said about like trying to put that platform and trying to create this connection between our brothers and us to have this conversation. I think also as Africans, also born in the continent, we're still facing this thing about who we really are, because we can see that we still have this impact of slavery, neocolonialism in our countries. For example, from my experience, I'm from a French-speaking country, and I can see the difference of how the French came to my country, also colonized. And me growing up also in a French school, not really finding myself into the stuff that they're saying. I feel like me coming here, I realize is really what to be a black person. Because what they're trying over there, for example, the way of trying to oppress us again or trying to keep this system is to saying that they are colorblind. They don't believe that there is white, black, we all same color, and but they're trying to do it in the way of you should not really think about who you are, and trying to forget about what's happening. So me coming here and see all that, for me it was like a mission to speak to the people that don't really understand. I have experience with some people that are asking me, "Oh, do you watch TV over there? Do you live in trees?" Yeah, I never get offended about that, because for me it's okay. I try to help and try to be a bridge, because I had the chance to come here. There is some people that don't have the chance to come here. Why letting all the smartphones, all those media that are controlled by other people to try to tell our stories? So this is why I feel like filmmaking and media are a weapon.
Well, I want to get in here a little bit, because to me, I think this thing that you guys live in a tree and stuff is not real. It's not real. It might be the dozens on you, which means you have to understand and study the culture you came into. I don't think you should expect black people to study you. That's very arrogant. In my view, you came to a country, you better study white, black, American history. You owe yourself, not anybody. I don't care about what black people would say to me. When I lived, I'm teaching at Howard, they used to call me Kinta Kunte. Little kids who are on the block who are angry at me used to call me Kinta Kunte, etc., whatever. But to me, I was not going that. They abused me. They didn't know Africa. What I do is study why this thing is like this, and how come what do I know about their reality? See, a lot of Africans, especially Ethiopians, they come entitled to begin with, okay? When I came to America, I didn't come entitled. I came to work and go to school. But I know Ethiopians who came entitled by scholarship, by government scholarship, by State Department scholarship. Their mind and my mind are two different. The way we remember our encounter of America is different. For me, I want to know who these black people are. The more I have a confrontation in whatever level, with white people or black people, I want to know more about them. Who are these people? Why do I take them for granted? Why do I think I know black people? Why do I expect them to be what I want them to be? That itself has its own colonial origin. So for me, your job as an African is to study the country you came to, including black people, including understanding where either alienated, at the time I came, they were enraged, okay? I was more Uncle Tom from Ethiopia with Ethiopians. I was Uncle Tom. Black people were militant at every corner. And many Ethiopians would say, why are they so angry? But for me, I say, who are these people? What's my affinity with them? Why am I attracted towards them? And so it ends up into films I made, from Bush Mama to, the other day I spoke about, no one can explain to you that I would be born in a small town in Gondar and make Sankofa in America. To this day, white, black critics are puzzled. In festivals, they have presented papers and say, what is this guy? Is he lying? He's not from Ethiopia. Is he born here? When they see Ashes and Embers. But I'll tell you why. Because I respectfully want to know black people, because they created the conditions for me to even desire to want to be a filmmaker. I didn't come from Ethiopia, I'll be a filmmaker. No. Black people said, oh, they saw a little film I made. Oh, our brother, you film. I said, damn, they accept me. Am I a filmmaker? So the sanction comes from that. So to me, I want young people, I don't like us to come to America and say, they said this to me, they said this to me, they said this to me. I don't think that's right. They should say anything to you. In fact, in Europe, they will throw banana on you to say you're a monkey. In Europe now, soccer players still play soccer, banana thrown at them. Me, I will never play for nobody. You throw a banana at me, I'm finished with the sport. But we have black people who go on playing. So to me, we have to figure out our own mindset and not be surprised about what black people in America don't know about Africa. That's not our job. Our job is to know where we are, what is white supremacy, the history black people wrote, study Walter Rodney, Professor Clark, Dr. Ben, and then you say, shit. Okay, so to me, let me tell you, I was one time in Ethiopia at the River Nile, where it jumps out of the Lake Tana. And I heard about this voice. I'm in the hotel I'm staying. I hear this voice. And I said, I know this voice. And I followed the voice. It was Dr. Ben. There was 150 African Americans studying my history with him. And I said, Haile, you better study your history. Know who the hell you are. Because they're saying your country is important. They're studying your country. So to me, the African American community is a complex community. It's a dangerous community. You know, we sometimes, for example, you know, if I check your pants or your shoes, or I will see black American influence in how you walk or something. It's a powerful culture that has gone all the way to Africa. It could be in a positive way if we know how to intercept the discourse, but not from a crown prince saying, oh, how come you don't know I have an apartment? We have skyscrapers like you. The hell with that. Let me tell you, when I showed my film first, Harvest 3,000 Years, shot in Ethiopia at Howard University, 1,000 something folks, black folks, into the theater. The film showed. An Ethiopian woman got up and said, we're just very unhappy that you kept showing them poor Ethiopians. You know, we have rich Ethiopians in Ethiopia too. In Addis, we have skyscrapers. And I told her, I am not proud of your skyscraper in Addis because it's monkey does, monkey do. Imitate white folks high rise. Has nothing to do with our culture. So to me, she's ashamed I show peasant who are my uncles. My goddamn uncles, she's ashamed of them. So there's a different kind of manifestation. You guys have to be careful. I think we come to from Africa. The first thing is study where we have come to. So we can locate ourselves and navigate this society. But there's nothing we wanted to teach black America, in my view. We can learn from black America because they're in the forefront of studying Africa to begin with. Show me an African, not Fanon, show me an African elite that has dealt with the implication of neocolonialism in the mind of Africans. The Senegalese, No, the brother the anthropologist, Cheikh Anta Diop. The Cheikh Anta Diop, in his own continent, is not known, but in Black America, more books have come out with his contribution. And I'm saying on racism, Africans don't even have a single book, except maybe the novelists like Ngugi wa Thiong'o, some Ben Usman film and books. But Africans have not yet tackled what's wrong with our head. How come in Ethiopia, in the city, capital city in Addis, we have mentally demented Ethiopians who imitate Europe obscenely, and in Dakar, and in Accra? We have to worry about that. Our own people there have not confronted neocolonialism. Black people have gone to the mind, the discourse in Black America, in sociology, psychology, black people have been writing about the mental displacement of black people. In Africa, yet to write a book. Where he comes from in Ethiopia, there's not a single Amharic book, anti-colonial Amharic book. And the psychological repercussion, not a single book Ethiopians have written. They write about love story, they did this, the Queen of Sheba legend, etc. But when it comes to our mental colonization, the elite now, the leader, they're the best examples of European Pentecostal colonialism. Not a single book writes about them. And so I would say, those of us, Moon Yang, her folks are from Africa, from I understand you guys, Cameroon. So I'm saying, I think the homework is really, we come here, we can learn from Black America to deal with our obscene class that is in power, has no vision. In our own country, people go to the ocean to die to escape our own country. Okay? In our own country, our own resources don't go to our people. We are the center of disease. Africa is the industry of disease. Africa is the industry of war. Africa is the industry of poverty. What do we do about that? Okay? To me, especially, even my brother is in film. I think you're in film? No? You are at least two of you in film. To me, filmmakers like our sisters here who want to be filmmakers, it's very important that we deal with this issue. And we can learn a lot from Black America, in my view.
Can I just join in?
Just a quick thing. Yeah, you can.
He
Yeah.
No, I encourage, because I know there are many African Americans who don't know a daggone thing about any country in Africa. I've had to teach them. I've had to teach my own family members who think, people still live, on the ground and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, but
But-
the Africans in Africa don't know anything about other Africa.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know it.
So we are in the same boat when you
But my whole thing is just, it's too many resources out here now. You can learn it.
Yeah.
You can learn it. And,
And
you know,
share
when,
what we
when,
learn.
yes, and share it. When I talk to Cameroonians and Ethiopians and other people who I interact with and they tell me their names, I say, excuse me, that's not your name. Your name is not Charlie. Your name is not Susie.
And Michael, if it's
Tell me your
Mikey,
name.
Mikey.
And, again, that's that whole colonial thinking. You come here and change your name because you think white folks can't pronounce it, or they tell you, I can't pronounce your name. I mean, Asians go through it too. I've been employed with people, Asians come in, and they change their names to European names. And I can pronounce your name.
Yeah,
Say it to me.
it's good business to
Yeah.
change your name to
Yeah.
English.
Because white folks will say, I can't pronounce it. Change your name. And the thing is that we want you to teach us. We do. We want you to teach us, show us. I talked to a Cameroonian brother one time, and he told me he came here for the resources, to go to school, to get the resources. He says America is showing to us that it's the greatest place to live on this earth, He said, but I get here, and he says, y'all get treated bad. And they treat me bad too, you know? I said, yeah, because of the color of your skin, you know? And it's important to learn what the African Americans have gone through here, what we go through daily, you know? When you're trying to get jobs and they're not giving them to you when you have the PhD degree and the person they give it to has a bachelor's degree, you know? That kind of thing. We go through a lot to get things, and we are special. We are special. Every now and then, you know, our people did work hard for us to be able to own a car or own a, you know, we worked hard, but it's just good to share the knowledge, you know. Hey, tell these young folks, no, this is how we live. This, show them on the map where you are. You know, because when I came up in school, nobody taught me. They only taught me American geography. You know, they didn't teach me nothing about any other countries or any other continents. And you know, everybody thinks Africa is one country. You know, come on, you got 54 countries on that continent. You know, and so a lot of the knowledge isn't taught to our children. And it's up, you know.
On this one, let me say something. You know, my son one time came from school because in school is where the hurting comes. He came from school, the oldest son. He was a kid, maybe about 9th grade or 8th grade or 7th grade. He came and says, we were going shopping, and he says, Haile, isn't Somalians more poor than Ethiopians? And I said, why do you want to know? I said, no, tell me. Johannes, why do you want to know that Somalians are more poor than Ethiopians? And he says, no, just to let me know, at least I will, you know. And then I said, no, I will only answer you if you tell me, are you attacked that you want, as an Ethiopian being, you know, from a poor country, are you being attacked? And are you looking for a poorer country to have beneath you? I said, no, I raised you not to be allowing these things to come into fruition. You do not look for poor. Ethiopia there's poverty, that's a fact. Somalia, there's poverty. In Africa, poverty everywhere. So there is no competition as to who is more poorer than. So don't go for it, because the harassment. So for me, I think it's very important that we don't go into we too are civilized discussion, because that's dangerous. I think what we have to do is amplify our culture, amplify, as Munyang said, our ancestors, elders, listen to our elders, give them more avenue to speak. It has a therapeutic effect. These are things we have to do. And let those who walk in, like people who walk to see my film, is all I care. Give me a chance, look at my film, see what you can get out of it. And so it's very important not to go into, we too are civilized with Europeans and Americans. I think that is, you know, to me, the wrong journey, you know.
What do you then choose? You know, I grew up in Southeast DC, came out of Anacostia High School, left Anacostia High School, went up to American University, total culture shock. American University is a private white university, and I'm gonna tell you, they still hang bananas from
No, no, no. You have
I
to.
want to have the knowledge that they think
No,
the way
you
they
should
think.
have a knowledge.
That's what I'm talking
No,
about.
no, but you should have a knowledge of yourself.
I
You
do.
should have a knowledge of your origin. That is the foundation of
I agree.
evolution.
I agree.
But them people is not my job. My job is this young people that when I taught at Howard, that's why I didn't go to no white school. I didn't want to teach white kids. I want to teach black kids. It's a reliable investment to say that my kids at Howard saying, this is how the situation is. This is what you have to work, etc. So to me, my sister, we're
But
not
what it helped
disagreeing.
me with, sir, what it helped me with was getting more confident, dealing with them,
Yeah, that's
getting
what I'm
more
saying.
confident.
We're saying the same
know-
thing.
Knowing that I could become more knowledgeable, it helped me
Yeah.
dealing with them and having the knowledge about the way they think so that I can teach my children the way they think so that they don't get consumed in all of the feelings of why these. I used to go home to my father and say, what is wrong with those people? What's wrong with them? And my father had to say to me, you don't listen to that rhetoric.
We say
You
the same
don't
thing,
listen, but you have to get taught that. That's why social
No, the
media
teaching-
is so
I think the
crazy
teaching- my
with young
sister-
people.
No, my sister, the teaching should be, by your own admission, we should know who we are.
Yes.
We should know our history, and no rain would wipe it out. No flood would wipe it out of us.
Well, that's
to
what
me-
causes the trauma amongst African Americans is not that we don't have that all together yet.
Okay, let's hear this,
So-
because we're past our time. Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah. So sorry. Maybe it was my English when I was explaining myself. But I was coming to exact that the same point that you just mentioned. Me coming here it was necessary for me as a man to understand because I feel the same. Just like one anecdote that was happening one time on set. One of my best friends, they're all African Americans. I was on set and we were working for one of my African brothers that we said that was born in the continent and growing up here. And there is one moment, like just speeding up the story, and I was outside trying to set up like a light, and I was not able to understand anything. And my friend from the continent, also born there, just said something like, "Oh, like talk louder. He cannot understand English." It's my someone that claimed to be born in the continent saying something like this to me. And in this room, the first person that stand for me are my African American friends. And since that day, and before that, I knew that I can say that my friends that I made here are African Americans. So this is why I decided to make movies. And for me, it's an obligation to be that bridge and trying to understand them first so I can understand myself.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, thank you, the quiet one. Take care, folks. We'll see you. Where are you from? Tanzania. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hilarious country. Yeah, sister. Okay. Yeah, no. That's one leader we all respect. He stood his ground good. I'm not sure you have a good one now, but it's okay. I don't want to get into it. Thank you, everybody, for everything.
Thank you.
Discussion. So see you again. No, we will show her film on Pan-Africanism.
Okay, I will be there.
Keep an eye.
You sell that one?
Which one? Pan-African? Jonathan, he left?
That was.
belong. I think the first problem is that everyone wants to belong. Yeah. So they'll be like, oh, I can do this too. Oh, you too. But, oh, I have skyscraper. You have skyscraper. It's like everyone wants to belong, but that's the emotional problem.
Y'all, you know,
Thank you so
and
much.
you know what? Just
Thank you,
know
thank you,
that
thank you so much.
they have to make themselves look good. They got to step on others and make themselves feel good about themselves.
You
know?
know, literally last month, this like a white guy, this tall, he's just walking past. I thought he was on drugs. He was very like, oh, you got your shirts from the donation center. Your king sold you off. Then he said, nigga, and then he just flicked us off. I didn't even turn around all the way. He was already running away. So it's like, my friends were tall. We're all like this height. And he's like this small. I was just thinking like, the audacity to do that. I've never
And
seen
see
that.
and
You know
that's
what I
the
mean?
thing. They feel like they can do that and say that stuff to you. That's why I think it's important you know where their brains are.
Yeah, like I mean, I know it.
And you
It's
know
just they
how to
don't have
just
the
say,
audacity.
man, go somewhere, you know, because you know where their brains are. And if you guys have ever gone out into the Midwest to go to Kentucky, Illinois, and all that, you know, they're crazy. So if you know that they're crazy, you know how to make yourself feel better about who you are.